All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're zeroing in on those specific language tweaks that can seriously push your IELTS score from just good to great. These are the little details that actually make a huge difference.
Does this look familiar? You've been studying like crazy, you know your grammar, but for some reason your score is just stuck. Hitting that plateau is super common and honestly really frustrating, but it's something we can absolutely fix.
So here's the secret, right? It's not about memorizing a dictionary. It's about showing that you can use the English you already know with real control and precision. We're going to walk through 4 high-impact upgrades that show the examiners you've got exactly that kind of command.
First one up, describing data trends. This is absolutely critical for writing task 1, where you're almost always looking at a graph or a chart, and just using simple generic phrases like go up and go down isn't going to cut it if you want a top score.
So instead of saying go up over and over again, look at these options. Using a word like climb, or for a really big jump, soar, immediately makes your writing sound so much more academic. It shows the examiner you have a rich vocabulary to talk about upward movement with, a bit of style.
And if the exact same idea when the numbers are heading in the other direction, forget go down. Words like decline or plunge paint a much clearer, more vivid picture. Remember, variety is your best friend here. This is such an easy way to impress. Now here's where we add another layer of detail, and this is so important. Don't just say prices rose. Tell them how they rose. Did they rise sharply, or was it steadily? Pairing your verb with an adverb tells the full story, not just the direction, but also the speed and the scale. That's what precision is all about.
Okay, let's move on to our second upgrade. This one is all about precise word choice. And getting the difference between purpose and goal right is one of those subtle things that really signals a much deeper understanding of English.
And this slide just makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? An object or an action has a purpose. It's its function, the reason it exists or is done. But a person has a goal. That's an ambition, something you want to achieve. So a clock has a purpose, but you have a goal. Nailing this makes you sound so much more natural. And here's a perfect, high-scoring example you might use in Task 1. We're talking about the reason for the action of moving, so purpose is totally the right word here. It's a small detail, I know, but it gives your writing a much more formal, academic tone. All right, here's another fantastic little trick to make you sound more professional, especially when you're talking about statistics and data. It's all about choosing the right word. This table breaks it down so well. A digit is just a single symbol, right? Like in your phone number. A number is your general all-purpose word for quantity, but figure is the word you want to use for statistics in a formal report. Saying the unemployment figures just sounds so much more academic than the unemployment numbers. So let's just make it a simple rule for IELTS Task 1. When you're pointing to data from a graph or a chart, use the word figure. It's an instant upgrade. It signals to the examiner that you get the conventions of academic writing. Simple as that. On to our final upgrade, and honestly, this one's a biggie. Grammatical range and accuracy is literally one of the things you're scored on. You have to prove you can do more than just write basic, simple sentences one after the other. So our first technique for spicing up your sentences is to use a gerund. That's just the ing form of a verb as the main subject of your sentence. It might sound complicated, but I promise it's actually pretty easy to do. Just look at the difference here. The simple version is fine. People moved for work. This increased the most. It's correct, but it's two short, kind of choppy sentences. Now look at the better version. Moving for the purpose of work saw the greatest increase. Wow, it's one single, fluid, really sophisticated sentence. Trust me, this is exactly the kind of stuff examiners are looking for. Next up, let's talk about participle phrases. These things are amazing for combining two different ideas into one smooth sentence and showing how those ideas are connected. And here is a perfect example of how powerful this is. Instead of two separate statements, you connect them beautifully. The figure rose to 50,000 before falling to 35,000. It creates a nice flow like you're telling a story, and it shows you have control over more complex grammar. Okay, our final technique is all about being a good guide for your reader. When you're describing different parts of a chart, you need good signpost words to clearly show that you're shifting from one point to the next. So please, ditch the repetitive and then or also. Using expressions like turning to or notably proves to the examiner that your answer is well organized and that you're in total control.
Each of these words has a specific job, and they make your writing logical and super easy to follow.
So let's wrap this all up. These 4 upgrades, using precise words for trends, choosing the right vocabulary, and varying your sentence structures, they're not just a bunch of random rules to memorize. Think of them as tools. They are the tools you're going to use to build a fantastic, high-scoring answer that proves you have a real command of the English language.
And that brings us to the end. But really, this is where the real work begins for you. Think about your own writing for a second. Which one of these 4 upgrades really stood out to you? Which one made you think, I can start doing that right now? Pick that one and just make it your focus. That's how you'll start to see a real improvement.